各位在脸书上的朋友、微信的朋友和 YouTube 的朋友，大家好。黄杰平今天在美国首都华盛顿秋高气爽的时候，向各位报道一个好消息。我们在2天以前应邀去西维吉尼亚州去看一看一个从中国云南香格里拉搬来的房子，这是一个非常有趣的邀请。我们驱车从华盛顿然后到维吉尼亚州，接着再到西维吉尼亚州、马里兰、维吉尼亚州和西维吉尼亚州，我们去看看这栋房子。
Stop. All right, let's do it, Jay.
Back up a little more.
这段路很长，后来呢，我们就进入了这个好像乡村小道，好像在一个丛林里一样。这个路呢非常颠簸，而且是没有完成的路，是一条非常小的路。那么我们就这样在里面走。
How are you, Mrs. Swan? Good to see you.
I can't believe I'm becoming.
Yeah. Olivia, it's a pleasure to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. Oh my gosh. This is impressive. This is amazing. My mom was
Daddy, it's good to see you. Thank you for coming.
我们到达那里的时候，已经有人来了，而且都有认识的朋友。那天呢，他们有一个仪式，就是介绍这一次为什么要举行一个会，来邀请各界的朋友一块儿来看这栋房子。那么，当时这会开始的时候，是由约翰·弗洛尔。他的姓叫做 flower， 就是花的意思，我就称他是鲜花先生吧。那么在开始之前，由先知黄 Dietrich， 他是这一次的召集人，他先发表谈话。
Be able to share this with all of you today, and
we just want to thank you so much for coming out to West Virginia, Jefferson County. We brought you out to the countryside over the river and through the woods, and we're thrilled that you're here today. I'm going to turn this over to, this is John Flower and Pam Leonard, and this is their vision. They made this happen, and would love to have John speak about it.
Thanks, Ginger. Well, thank you. Thank you all for coming. I'm glad it's turned into a beautiful day, and we love to have people out here because having people here is what turns this house into a home. So I'm going to give everybody a little bit of a background on the history of the project. In some ways, it started 30 years ago when my wife and I went to the countryside in Sichuan. And Pam's an anthropologist. I do local history. We started to study family histories and houses as kind of texts of historical change, texts of social relations. So that was part of our work as academics. And then I moved to Sidwell Friends School and had a wonderful experience of taking students to China. And that grew, and we ended up taking students for a whole semester. And one of the things we had them do was we had them study houses. We would give them a house for 2 weeks and say, here's your house, tell its story. And they learned the history of modern China by the changes that are embedded or inscribed into a house. So that kind of inspired us. And we had the students do other programs like apprentice. They would apprentice with craftsmen. So the kind of craftsmanship you see in the house, they actually had the chance to experience wood carving and silversmithing and house painting and things like that. So that was a great experience. And while we were doing that program in Yunnan, we were based in Xizhou outside of Dali. We would take the kids up into the Sanjiang Bingliu, the 3 parallel rivers area of northwest Yunnan, where there's so many fascinating cultures and different ethnicities working together. And we went to this town called Suzhong. Suzhong is right on the Lansanjiang. It's on the upper reaches of the Kekong River. There's a beautiful glacier right behind it. Gorgeous country. Incredibly diverse, biodiverse area. Very culturally diverse. Suzhong had Tibetan people and Lisu people and Naxi people and Bai people and Han people all living together in this town. So we heard that they were going to build a series of dams on the Mekong. And there was one hamlet that was going to be inundated. About 60 houses were going to be inundated. So we went down to look and see. In 2015, when I had a group of students, Pam and I went for a walk. We walked past that gate right there, and the door swung open, and Mr. Zhang Jianhua did a double take, saw us there, and of course he did what any self-respecting Chinese person would do, invited us in for tea. So we went in for tea, and I was just marveling at the house, and I said, your house is so beautiful. There's such great craftsmanship. It's a pity it's going to be inundated by a dam. I wish I could just pick it up and take it home with me to Virginia. And of course he said, let's do it. So you have to be careful what you say. So that was 2015. In 2017,
Flower 的夫人，她也在30年前到中国去，她会说四川话，但是她现在用英语来介绍现在这栋来自中国云南香格里拉的房子和预算等等。
Very few people, we've had a chance to tell very few people, but actually during World War II, an American pilot flying the Hump was shot down and stayed in this house. They sheltered him here. And there's lots of stories like that from the community. The community is fascinating, and we really look forward to having those stories. But the thing about it was that their house really told us it wanted to come. And it's, you might think I'm joking, and maybe I'm joking. I don't think I'm joking when I say it's like the house is our boss. It has told us what to do. We work for it. Okay, we are in its power, and it really is a very special house. It's the one in control. I hope you all will have a chance to see the film on the website, the 30-minute version. But I think, along with Ginger, it was actually the house that invited you all here, because it's starting to feel like a Chinese American immigrant that's settled in its, happy in its new place and wanted to commune. Don't call me too weird. Anyway, I wanted to, my real purpose in talking to you was just to give you a little bit about how we have made this work sort of financially and just the administratively, how this works. So in the beginning, we took our savings, all our cash savings, $40,000, bought the house, brought it here, put it in storage. That was the beginning. Well, we started looking for a place for it, and it picked this place. And it was really, we were kind of at a dead end looking around. We thought we were going to put it over here. There's Shennandoah University had a property they were excited about. Turned out it was a battlefield, and they wanted to keep it whatever as a battlefield. So wasn't there, but then we found out this place was right here, Friends Wilderness Center. That worked out great. At the very same time as we were at this dead end and found this place, Friends Wilderness welcomed us. Kurt Campbell, Sidwell parent, took us under his wing, and he was just absolutely fantastic to us. He's now, a lot of you know him, I don't need to, okay. He's Deputy Assistant to the President now on East Asian, Indo-Pacific affairs, so he's kind of not able to be so involved anymore. He actually has to keep a bit of a distance, so that's fine. So we've continued on under the leadership of our very wonderful board. We expanded the board. They've been tremendously helpful. But for those first 2 years, he was actually our main donor. And at the end of the first year, he introduced us, another Sidwell parent, Wang Jin, introduced us to a couple from Potomac who were emigrated from Yunnan and were very interested in this project and in educational programs. Dao Feng, Hu Dao Feng and Angela Hua, they have their own foundation, and they're the other ones who have done most of the funding of the project. I just had to have this, so I'd give you a few numbers. I think the first year we got about $300,000, and that got us going. That was by the end of the year when Dao Feng came in, and then the second year about a little under $200,000. So now we're coming into our third year, and it's a little bit complicated because Kurt's no longer with us, so we won't have his donations. We think Dao Feng will give us one more year of funding to complete the house and the bathhouse. I think we'll be okay for that. Our summer programs roughly break even, so that's worked out okay, but they're not, I mean, the main way this has all gotten done, both John and I are volunteers. We've never been paid for any of this. And all of the people that work for us at really reasonable rates. They've all bought in. We've had tons of volunteers. That's really what's made it happen. But we do have a few more things that we do need to do. Just so you know, we want to do the gardening. We have about a $250,000 plan to make a courtyard to bring down some of these trees. A lot of you probably didn't even notice there's a beautiful pond right there.
The kids problem solve on this. Building the rammed earth wall, coming up with the right formula. Hempcrete, they figured out a way to cut the cost of making hempcrete in half by adding clay, right?
Yeah.
To the mix. So always experimenting, and that's something I think we talk a lot about in education. But these kids are actually doing it. I couldn't be more proud of these guys. And then, you know, the best thing is they build themselves. There's an emotional aspect to it where they build themselves into this. So kids come back because they can go, I built that, I remember building that wall, so you become invested. And that kind of building of a community is, to me, it's the best. It's the best. So as we move forward, I'm just going to talk real briefly about, because obviously we're not done. And thank you all for coming to a construction site, right? So the house itself is coming along. I think it looks pretty good, right? We'll get the windows in, but one thing's missing, of course, is the roof. We need to have a Chinese tile roof, and as soon as shipping costs come down, because right now the shipping costs 3 times as much as the tile. So I'm in touch with people doing that, but that'll finish this house off, and then you'll notice that this big structure here, built all with local wood, sustainably harvested according to their plan here. That's our bathhouse, because when you get 30 kids out here, you know, you need bathrooms, you need showers.
By local, he means a couple 100 feet that way.
Yeah, that's right. I cut them down too. So that's an important part of our physical plant, right? The kids put up that frame. That's going to be a room that will be for warming yourself. There's a stove and so forth. And then this is where that green tent is. That's going to be our commercial kitchen. So essentially, what we're building is a camp facility. So that we'll have bathrooms, we'll have a commercial kitchen, the health department will let us operate. So then that's going to complete all this, and that's what we have in store between now and the summer. And then the kids are going to come. Brooke's going to recruit a lot of kids, and they're going to come this summer. And this summer, we want to do gardens. So imagine 2 planters out in front, stone planters, stone steps, right? And then imagine another garden back here where that wall ends, and then another garden where this shed is and we'll take down. That will be intensive vegetable gardening. You know, farmers of 40 centuries, so intensive vegetable gardening. Changes of agriculture in rural China. That room up there we want to make into like a library where we could sort of document the government policy and how that's affected rural life since from pre-revolutionary times to today. The center room up above would be typically used for religious purposes, so we could have a display about local folk religion, both Tibetan, Buddhist, and Bai, and other. And then this room up here could be devoted to family and kinship, and sort of the house as a text of family structure. And then this room here, we thought we would have special exhibits, sort of rotating special exhibits. But we had another idea we were inspired by having some folks just walk in here. They were Chinese heritage people who walked in and said, "Is this what I think it is?" And they began to talk about the house. And, "Oh, I remember my grandmother's house," or "I remember when I was sent down to the countryside, we lived in a place like this." So we want to have like a StoryCorps place where people could record their stories about their own experiences inspired by the house. So those are kinds of the things that we want to do here. So there's one more final structure that we were hoping to do, which is going to be right there between us and the pond. There is the Jinshan Craftsman Guild. The carpenters who built this are from Jinshan County. They want to send a group of craftsmen to use local West Virginia wood to build a Chinese-style pavilion. These guys are the best carpenters in China. So that is our big cultural exchange program. Huge. And that's what we're saving as sort of like our showpiece. We have the plans that they sent us in here that you can look at. Thank you. I've talked too much. I know everybody's getting a little cold. I think Pam's going to talk a little bit more about it.
I'll try to be really brief. I just wanted to give you a little bit of the sort of the brass tacks and how we did this, how it all came about. I will say that for me, one of the special things about Chinese houses is, and then we want to put a series of tents. We will do much better if we can have all the students staying together in one place. This past year, we were in 3 different houses, and we drove ourselves a little crazy going between the different places looking after things. So we hope to move the kids more into tents here, along with another house we have down on the river, which provides additional lodging, which is very nice. So that's kind of where we are and where we're going. So we're working on that for fundraising, but we think we're in a pretty good place so far, and we're very amateur. And maybe that's a little bit of a charm, but it's also a little embarrassing. We totally fly by the seat of our pants, thinking doors will open as we go. And
you're not supposed to tell them that.
Okay, all right, sorry. We're very professional, and we've really done a great job. Okay, that's really all I have to say.
Pam,
And yeah.
how much is the total fundraising goal at this point?
It's funny. So we have particular items, and we're working on it. We're thinking that we really need an administrative budget to make this thing truly professional and sustainable. We need to pay administration. And that would probably, an administrative budget would look something like $100,000 a year. But in addition, we do still actually need the money to do the kitchen and the gardens and some of the museum
tent
work.
things
The
and
tents,
stuff,
yeah. And so we're thinking like 60 to 70,000 for the 8 tents. We're thinking, as I say, 100,000 for the kitchen, 200 and some for, like, we want to do some paving and planters and gardens, all within the compound here. But I think that'll be really another 200,000 pretty easily.
Quaker School. Asia Network is a consortium of liberal arts schools, and the boy who worked with Kamal and did a study on that furniture back there. What's it called? Chagam? What's the Chagam?
Yeah.
On that sort of display cabinet. He's presenting that at the Asia Network meeting, and we're hoping that we can get, ideally we would build up to getting like 6 college interns who would help us develop. They would actually do a curator kind of internship.
We'd like to have them next summer. We hope to have these tents next summer. That's our intention. We hope to have that commercial kitchen next summer. In the meantime, we do have a house that houses about 12 people down along the river, 1 mile from here, which is where we've done things to date.
It's incredible what you've done with.
It has been a little bit overwhelming at times, the summer program, because we need to have more college interns coming in and help. And I think that will make it much more, then we can do it over a longer time, more sustainable. We won't be quite so exhausted and can focus more on teaching instead of we're just like doing it all.
在场的宾客也发表他们对这个建筑的感想看法。那么现在呢，就听他们的讲话。
Rural life, many Chinese, they live in the rural parts of China. I think that is also a good window to, to learn about Chinese culture, Chinese traditional culture. So I really enjoy working here every summer with students, with Pam and with John. So yeah, that's I just want to share my experience. So
I'm Brooks. I'm a senior at Civil Friends School, and seeing how we learned, for example, we learned about each of those paintings or the drawers, and then we put it together and we puzzled over it, we put it together, and I think really interacting with the house, treating the logs, seeing how we learned about joinery, how this house did not use any nails at all, and it was only relying on the traditional building methods, and really seeing how it fit together was I think a really important part of learning that we don't see every day in the classroom. And yeah, we worked on this year we worked on the hempcrete, and then we worked on rebuilding the houses. We put up all the walls here this year, and I think it was really fun. And we also learned a lot about culture here. I think it was a lot of work, but also we had a lot of fun. I think in the second week they made a lot of food. Yeah, and then and the first one we made baskets from the trees, and overall I would say personally, since I'm ethnically Han Chinese, and my parents, my grandparents, they came from big cities in China. So for me, it was really interesting to see the traditional Chinese structures, or traditional Asian structures, and building mechanisms. Because for me, at least, when I visit China, I think of the big cities, but I've never really been to rural China, and I think this I would have never expected to learn about it in rural West Virginia, but this is something that I found here, and I think it was a really great program. I would advise all of the Citadel kids to come this year. Yeah.
Thanks, Brooke. Thanks.
Probably. Yeah, exactly.
it's right over here. Yeah, it's where the one with the handle. Okay. The door's open, so you might not.
接着我有机会能够访问鲜花先生，请他用普通话来跟各位谈一谈这个房子的情况是怎么样从中国运到美国来的。
很高兴我访问到这里的主任江 Brown， 他的中国话说得非常的好。我们现在用普通话和他谈一谈。
好，可以。
介绍一下你这个背景，这个房子是从哪里来的？
这个房子是从云南省一个小镇叫慈中，慈中是云南的西北，靠近香格里拉那个地方，在蓝山江旁边。
这是一个西藏人的房子吗？
是藏族人的房子，对。但是有点奇怪，那个地方慈中有藏族人，有白族，有纳西族，有那个傈僳族，有汉族，所以是一个都在一起，都住在一起，很和谐的社会。
怎么会想到把这个房子搬到美国这个西维吉尼亚州呢？
这个故事很长，但是我简单的说一下。那个时候，2014年，2015年，我带一批学生，就是考察那个地方。我们知道他们要修一个水坝要淹没很多房子，不是很多房子，是一部分的房子，所以我们就去看一下淹没的房子是什么样的。我们看这个房子，突然那个前门打开了，那个主人说：“哦，你是远客，请进，请进。”那个时候我跟他说：“哎呀，你的房子好漂亮，淹没太可惜了。哎呀，如果我有机会，我把它带回家，干脆在附近呀就重新修一下。”他说：“好主意。”那我们就下决心，我们一起办。这个是2015年，然后2017年我带了我的同事和我的学生，他们是研究生 ，Stanford University， 建筑师的学生。我们研究那个房子，研究那个地方，他们的家庭历史，然后我们设计了，然后把它拆了，运到美国，找一个地方。所以从蓝山江和喜马拉雅山到那个 Blue Ridge Mountains Shennandoah River， 所以是一个
这个工程非常大，费用也非常高，
费用高，但是劳动更辛苦，很多志愿者，就是本地人，那个西弗吉尼亚州的本地人，我的学生，100多个志愿者，花3年时间，渐渐的把它修起来，还有人给我们 contributions， 所以我是主任。
经过这个房子主要的
目的是有3个目的，第一是一个博物馆，就是乡土中国的博物馆啊。第二个目的是让学生动手，他们可以体会那个生活方式是什么样。第3个是就是一个 craft school， 所以他们可以学习中国的工艺，比如说带银子，蜡染，雕刻木头等等。所以是一个学校，是一个博物馆，也是一个地方可以做文化交流。是，我们最宝贵的志愿者是 Timber Framers Guild， 他们是工人，他们修这样的房子，不是这样，就是美国的这一类的房子，他们觉得太有意思了，花了10天 12个人花了10天，他们是把那个木头把它捡起来了，至于安全，1分钱都不要。他们说唯一的要求，我们在中国的弟兄，给他们一个机会过来，我们很想见面，很想有交流，所以这个是我们最大的愿望。还没有，但是这个是我们的计划。
好的，我们非常高兴有机会访问家，因为这里确实是非常我们虽然跑了好远的地方，才发现是在这个深山里面，树林里面找到一个中国的孩子，真是不容易，万事如意，而且希望很多人都要到这里来参观，来看一看。
欢迎，非常谢谢，好，谢谢黄先生，谢谢啊。
Oh yeah, well that's why they do it so early.
The county looked at this and they said, no. They're like, we don't know about this. If it has 300 psi, you can use it.
But I'll wait for the lecture.
I can talk about
The decoration actually applies here.
I'm John.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Very practical. Stuff you see.
Turtles on the ground. Just on the ground.
So I don't live in. Oh, I
Yes.
那么现在呢，我就陪各位一块儿去看看这栋房子的内部情形是怎么样。
Middle level was repainted by students.
Wow.
The top level was never touched up. And what's so interesting about
David, I'm going to put your camera here.
so I pulled out those
Progress in the construction site, as you can see.
My father passed away a year ago.
Yes. We can wander around. I'll do a talk wander around. What will help introduce everything?
Mama works for
各位观众，今天我们这个特别节目就到现在为止，谢谢各位的收看。下次我们再向各位报道发生在大华盛顿地区的一些有趣的事。黄杰平谈天下事是在 YouTube、脸书和微信上播出，请各位向你的亲戚朋友介绍我们的节目。再会。